Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, let me, Puppy's World, introduce you to my introduction to what about Dolby Atmos. Now, I join you here in my living room of one of my properties that I'm going to be giving you a demonstration on. This is my introduction to HDMI, high definition multimedia interfaces. And my last video consisted of basically going over the technicalities and aspects of configuring Dolby Atmos through high-definition multimedia interfaces utilizing an audio return channel, or otherwise known as an ARC input and output on a television as such, or display, connecting to a surround sound amplifier and then achieving Dolby Atmos. For those that don't know, Dolby Atmos is the new object-based surround sound format as opposed to object-orientated surround sound. More specifically, Dolby Atmos deals with height channels, and more specifically than that, they deal with two front height channels to begin with. So, I've done some testing here and some different configurations and whatnot. One of the things I need to do is change around some furniture. As we are well aware, my center channel is basically where your feet would be, so that needs to be eye or ear level. And then we'd love to add a Vulcan audio rack in place of that end table where our Marantz AV receiver is. But we've got some work to do, and we'll show those. We'll illustrate this stuff as we go along. We've also got some speaker mounting kits to go ahead and review. We've got a professional review coming up of not only the Emotiva A300 BassX power amplifier, and I know it's still sitting on the floor, guys. That's an absolute cannot have. That is a must. So we've got to get that off the floor. We've got the AC Infinity fans, dual 120 millimeter USB cooling fans. We'll do a professional review on the near future here. I've got my Sony 4K XPR 850D model television here running a 4K video for you guys as we go. These are just pictures grasped by Sony developers themselves in 3840 by 2160. And we're in TV audio, so we're specifically activating our audio return channel. And I wanted to just give you an illustration as to what an audio return channel is more or less designed to do. And this brings us into a discussion of HDMI 2.1 and why it's useful, why you would utilize it, or what you would utilize it for, and you know what the point of it is. Let me just start or begin by telling you that with this Sony television, this is an application on the TV. So if I were to take my receiver remote, and I'm not going to be utilizing my universal remote. I know I've got a barrage of remotes here, but we've got to activate our Logitech Elite Harmony here. So we'll be doing that in the near future, so we can control everything from one remote. But if I were to just go, and I'll turn the light on for you here, there's a cable sat button right here on my Marantz remote. If I were to just hit cable sat, of course, it would kind of screw stuff up. And this is what the audio return channel is designed to do. So if I were to go, yes, so it's now in cable sat, and I would have to technically take my TV remote now. This is because we're not operating the audio return channel just yet, but we're kind of going around an audio return channel. But if I were to hit TV, it would attempt to bring us back into our cable satellite feed, which was fed by an HDMI cable into input 4, of course. So, you know, I'm going to go back into my YouTube app here, and we'll be utilizing our audio return channel, which one of the points of that, or one of the discretionary acts, so to speak, of that is right what you just saw occur right now. You just saw my surround sound AV receiver automatically switch into TV audio. And that is one of the points of basically an audio return channel, an ARC. Not utilizing that input would essentially, and I'll just go to anyone here, I'll just kind of flip through how many I've got here. I've got a few. So we'll just go to... But that's kind of the point of the audio return channels, guys. But what I wanted to talk about today was Dolby Audio over HDMI. And we're in part 1 of our codecs, as you can see right here. This is a very good web page of mine. If you don't take my word for it, or don't understand this video, or don't believe me, so to speak, well, you've got this literature to look back on, or to go to and basically confirm what I'm telling you. So it's a 3-part series, and we're going over the basics of the different Dolby audio formats and how they're signaled and carried over HDMI and the HDMI audio return channel. And I'm talking about what's happening in consumer devices and services today, so you can see right here. So I'll just get into my little video here, as I've got some background visuals and some audio for you. By the way, we're not in Mr. Emotiva power amp just yet. We're not using any preamp. We're just using the AB receiver here. I've got things configured in a unique setup. I'll have to show you that in a different video. But I've got 2 front height channels being operated right now, and I've got a total of 4. I'll be adding today, later tonight, with the female helping me. I wanted her to film me doing the actual installation of the mounting the speakers, but I'll be adding a voice of God, so a 5th height channel with a very nice piano gloss NHT speaker. However, I don't have the budget right now, but I would like to be able to order up some SVS elevation speakers from the Prime family in black piano gloss to match my SVS family here. So I've done things in a unique way right now. We've got 4 height channels being utilized. We're using our audio return channel. So let me get into things really quickly, guys. The introduction of HDMI opened up a world of possibilities for sound. It allowed devices to deliver and receive many types of audio formats, and it also ensured that a device received the best and most compatible audio format for the device. With HDMI, whatever you're delivering sound to a stereo, TV, a surround sound system, what have you, it doesn't make a difference, or a full Dolby Atmos setup, you could get the best possible audio given the capabilities of the playback system. But as I read on here, I'm going to go ahead and just give you this indication of... I've had some questions, and I'm just pausing my little introduction to HDMI right now. But as I'm doing this video, I've had literally 3 comments come through that have touched upon the subject of Dolby Atmos, and I wanted to be clear. I'll be doing a totally unique video devoted completely to Dolby Atmos entirely. However, somebody asks, and a lot of individuals ask this: what is necessary, or what devices do I need in order to achieve Dolby Vision? And let me just quickly tell you, you must have every piece in the chain, every link in the chain, so to speak, must be Dolby Vision compatible. You don't need to necessarily see that Dolby Vision symbol or indication sign on every piece of equipment, but you almost do. So let me just quickly tell you, we'll move on here. In order to achieve or to basically activate Dolby Vision, you must have everything Dolby Vision compliant, meaning at least your display. Your display absolutely is the most important thing to be Dolby Vision compatible. This display is not, unfortunately. For a Sony 4K display to be Dolby Vision compatible, you'd have to be in the Z series of televisions, which I don't feel is worth the money right now. So I won't be fully utilizing Dolby Vision until I experience another television here, or purchase another TV or projector that can go into Dolby Vision. But we'll be waiting until we get a full 4K, moving up from the Epson 5040 UB projector into another one. But so your TV definitely has to be Dolby Vision compliant, but also your source material. So whatever discs or streaming service you're using, say a film, a movie, Despicable Me, whatever, it must be in Dolby Vision. And then 3, whatever that material is playing out of, so the actual source, so the DVD player or the streaming device, and if you're watching it on TV, well, all the better for you, because then you're actually just using the TV as the source. So if the TV is Dolby Vision compliant or compatible, you're good to go there. But if you've got things connected into a surround sound receiver via an HDMI and you're using an audio return channel, this comes into play here, because an audio return channel working through an AV receiver, well, the AV receiver must be Dolby Vision compliant as well, or compatible. So there's a number of receivers that are now Dolby Vision compatible. Unfortunately, the Marantz SR7010 and 7011 are not. The 6012, the 5012, the newer slimline models, the 08s, they are Dolby Vision compliant and compatible. You will notice that by seeing a Dolby Vision symbol or sign on there. So, as we just talked about, in order to achieve a full Dolby Vision setup, every link in the chain must be Dolby Vision compliant. All right, now that we've basically covered that, let's continue on with our introduction to HDMI. As I read on here, and I'm going to continue basically giving my basic form of how I feel I should be explaining this. I won't be completely quoting off of the website, but I'd like you to use this this Dolby Developers website as, as supplemental material, if you will, or basically something to fall back on to understand more in depth what I'm talking about. But consumers can get high-quality audio format from a variety of source devices, as we were talking about, including Blu-ray players, set-top boxes like a cable box, digital media adapters, game consoles like the PS4, PS3, Xbox One S, PCs, laptops, and so many other devices, digital media adapters, playback on a variety of sync devices being an AV receiver, sound bars, and then of course television as a sync device. Content for those sources can be in various audio formats, including Dolby Digital, which is known as AC3, Dolby Digital Plus, which if you're not aware of is known of as EAC3, and Dolby True HD. Concerning Dolby Digital, this will be our first basic topic right here. Dolby Digital AC3 is the first and standard format, the most basic one for DVDs, well, and Blu-rays, to be honest with you. Dolby Digital was the first format out on Blu-ray, but they have moved that up, more or less. Even with DVDs, like my 7 DVD, that's not on Blu-ray, by the way, but the film 7 is in DTS ES. And then I have several DVDs that aren't on Blu-ray that have Dolby Digital EX, which utilize a 6.1 surround sound setup with a surround back channel. So we've been getting further, but Dolby Digital is the main starting point here of digital audio and surround sound, and provides up to twice the efficiency of Dolby Digital while, going into the plus. The next step is plus. So you've got Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby True HD, and then of course Atmos. But I'm going to continue talking about Dolby Digital here. It's the audio standard for digital broadcast television, in which many countries all over the world utilize, including TV here. Technically I have mine in pulse code modulation, but Dolby Digital is the standard in which digital television is now broadcasted. And it supports several audio channel configurations, but the most common ones are 5.1 channel and a stereo. 5.1 channel Dolby Digital audio is typically encoded at bit rates between 384 and 640 kilobytes per second, while stereo Dolby Digital audio is typically encoded at 192 kilohertz per second. Kilobytes per second. And Dolby Digital Plus, our EAC3, that provides up to twice the efficiency, as I said before, of Dolby Digital, while adding new features like a 7.1 channel audio, support for descriptive video services, and support for Dolby Atmos. More on that later, guys. Dolby Digital Plus is widely used by streaming and broadcast services to deliver surround sound audio at lower bit rates, technically. So our 5.1 channel audio in Dolby Digital Plus is typically encoded at bit rates between about 192 and 256 kilobytes per second, while stereo audio in Dolby Digital Plus is typically encoded at bit rates usually between 96 and we'll be safe and call it 128 kilobytes per second here. Dolby Digital Plus bitstreams are not directly backwards compatible with Dolby Digital encoders. However, Dolby Digital Plus decoders can decode Dolby Digital bitstreams. So that's a plus. If you've got a Dolby Digital bitstream, you'll be able to decode Dolby Digital Plus. Now let's get into True HD here. Dolby True HD, also known as MLP. That's a lossless audio codec used widely on HD and Ultra HD Blu-ray discs today, all throughout the world. Dolby Digital, turned into Plus and then turned into True HD. But our True HD supports up to 24-bit audio and sampling rates from 44.1, which is our generic basic form of kilohertz, and then 192 kilohertz. Dolby True HD supports up to 7.1 audio channels, as well as Dolby Atmos immersive audio, as we talked about in my original video, guys. As Dolby True HD is a lossless audio codec, of course, the data rate is variable. And this site is giving an example here, so I'll just read this for an example. Dolby True HD bit rates average, it tells us, average about 6,000 kilobytes per second for Atmos at 48 kilohertz, with peak data rates up to about a maximum of 18,000 kilobytes per second for high sampling rate content. And then we get to the good stuff. We get to the nuts and bolts of the grease of our V8 motor, so to speak, here. And I'm just going to take a quick break here before we get into Dolby Atmos here, but this is the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about, and let me enjoy my self-made pizza here. 5-cheese pizza I made myself with a brick oven. I'll have to do a video on that someday, guys, but I'm going to take a break. I'm going to have some pizza, and then I'll get to Dolby Atmos here. Alrighty, folks. We're back. Hope it didn't make you too hungry, but a little bit of self-grown basil, self-grown tomatoes in the garden will make anybody hungry. Any pizza tastes great. So, let me just get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of our discussion here, which is Dolby Atmos. Alrighty, so I'm going to continue reading on. I'm going to turn our volume down just a tiny bit here, give you some background visuals and audio to look at here. But as my little Dolby Atmos video continues on here, what about Atmos? Atmos is not a codec. You must understand this. Dolby Atmos is an immersive audio format that can be delivered via multiple audio codecs, including Dolby Digital Plus and Dolby True HD, as I talked about in my last video, but not Dolby Digital. You must remember this. So it is possible to get Atmos from Plus and True HD, not Dolby Digital. Blu-ray discs deliver Atmos using True HD, technically, with Dolby Digital Plus as an available alternative. That is how Blu-ray discs give you Atmos, guys. And they broadcast and streaming services deliver Atmos using Dolby Digital Plus, technically. On your Vudu, your Netflix, your Roku boxes, they're going to be delivering Atmos via Dolby Digital Plus, and that's how your receiver's picking up that codec and converting it. In order to maintain, though, compatibility with millions of devices in consumer homes, Atmos in these codecs is implemented as a backwards compatible extension. What that means is Dolby Atmos data is hidden within the bitstreams and can be decoded by a Dolby Atmos compatible AV receiver, but also a soundbar and a television. So 3 things there: receiver, soundbar, television can actually decode Atmos, guys. But non-Dolby Atmos capable devices will decode a 5.1 or 7.1 channel version from the Dolby Digital Plus or Dolby True HD bitstreams. Keep in mind now that there's a new HDMI signaling to indicate that Dolby Atmos is supported by a sync device, and that was further talked about in my last video concerning audio return channels in Atmos. But a side note here on SPDIF. By the way, SPDIF stands for Sony/Philips Digital Interconnect Format. What that does, guys, is it allows digital audio to be sent from a source device and a sync device over an optical or coaxial connection. This used to be the old way of going out of our televisions into an AV receiver. A lot of day in the past, a lot of times, a lot of configurations, a lot of setups, most of them that I have seen, by the way. We've just converted into this HDMI format of just sending one signal out of our receiver into our TV and all of our devices in via HDMI to our receivers in about the last 3 to 5 years total. Before that, everyone was sending an audio signal from their TV via an optical or a digital coax cable into our receivers. So that's how we were getting surround sound from television sources. Or, same thing, they were sending an optical or digital coax signal from the cable box and watching cable TV that way, or satellite that way. And by the way, guys, it is pronounced spdif. So spdif. That's Sony Philips digital interconnect format. That's our optical and digital coax. But it's historically been a popular connection type to get digital audio to soundbars as well as AV receivers. But it supports 2 channels of uncompressed PCM audio or Dolby Digital audio. So let's get something straight here. For those of you that think that you're going to get Atmos using a digital coax or an optical cable, I can tell you for certain that you will not. I have tried it, I have tested it, it won't work. They haven't designed that codec to work through that. Its maximum channels that can support technically are 2 of uncompressed PCM audio or Dolby Digital audio. It'll do Dolby Digital at a 5.1. That is max. That's the max you're going to get out of those type of connections, guys. And spdif connections do not support Dolby Digital Plus or True HD for 3 reasons. First, let me tell you that there's no signaling on spdif. There's no way for a source device to know whether a sync device supports newer audio codecs. HDMI does have that. Second, and HDMI 2.1 will have that as well, guys, in a little better version of it. But second, the spdif doesn't have enough bandwidth to support the worst case bit rates of Dolby Digital Plus or any bit rates for Dolby True HD, greater than 6,000 kilobytes per second. And then our last note, content protection rules like HDCP, high definition copy protection, they do not allow for newer formats to be sent over an unencrypted link like digital coax or digital optical. They haven't designed it to work like that. So to summarize things, guys, I've found this little graph here I want to show you. And what this will do, pause your screen. I'll even do it as my thumbnail. I think I'll try to get this as my thumbnail for the video. But pause your screen here, save the image, print it, do what you can, take a picture with your cell phone or whatever. But here is the graph that should give you an idea of what is covered. Stereo can turn into a Dolby Digital. Stereo can turn into a Dolby Digital Plus codec. Can also turn into a Dolby True HD. 5.1 is operated by Dolby Digital, Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby True HD. 7.1, we're getting into a little bit harder now. Dolby Digital cannot do that. Dolby Digital Plus, of course, can do the 7.1, and True HD can do 7.1. Atmos now, as we talked about, those are codecs that involve Dolby Digital Plus and True HD only. Those 2 codecs, Plus and True HD, are technically turned into Atmos, guys. That's how they're getting Atmos. So if you've got a Dolby Digital Plus or a True HD compliant device like source material, like a Blu-ray player, if it has Dolby Digital Plus or can decode it and True HD, you're going to get Atmos. You're good to go. If you're only limited to an older, say, Blu-ray player or DVD player that's got Dolby Digital, and that's all it can do, the maximum, you're not seeing any Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby True HD signal, symbol on there, it's not going to do Atmos, guys. I apologize. Lossless, True HD only. Lossless audio format is in a Dolby True HD feed only. What did we talk about? SPDIF? We talked about SPDIF here. Now, what is that, guys? You should know exactly what this is by now. SPDIF is digital optical and digital coax cables, feeds. Only Dolby Digital will that support. So, hope you've enjoyed my little video on HDMI here. I've got a secondary, more fun, a little bit more interesting video concerning HDMI 2.1 and the uprising of that. Some things it'll support, some things, basically, it won't support anything. I'm talking about things that it won't support. HDMI 2.1, it'll support everything. So that's good on that. But I'm not yet running out to buy that just yet because, 1, it's not available, and 2, it's going to be extremely expensive. Only our high-end audio companies like AudioQuest, Pangea, all the really, really, really expensive ones that we just don't need to spend the money or time on yet are going to be producing those first. So wait on the bandwagon for HDMI 2.1. I'll have updates for you as which ones I recommend, which brands, pricing, lengths, where to get them, and how much to pay. And then also, as I said, I've got reviews coming up, guys. I've got height channels to be installed yet. I've got Voices of God to install. I've got things to change. I've got parameters, configurations to set up, and of course, we're working on our theater build all the time. I'm lucky to have this day to myself, so you'll be seeing some more stuff from me coming today, hopefully. I'll be doing some more videos. Take care, guys. Please subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed my little What About Atmos?